It started as a flicker of movement through my kitchen window, a glimpse of a plaid skirt, knee-high socks, and shiny black shoes skipping across the yard next door. I remember thinking, that's odd. Why is a schoolgirl out so late? It wasn't until the next morning, when I saw him watering his hydrangeas in full view of the neighborhood, that I realized the schoolgirl was Mr. Winchell. Mr. Winchell, my middle-aged neighbor with thinning hair and a potbelly, stood there in a pristine navy blazer and pleated skirt, the kind you'd expect to see on a private school student. His tie was perfectly knotted, and his scuffed Mary Janes gleamed in the sunlight. I could feel my coffee cooling in my hand as I stared. He caught my gaze. His lips stretched into a thin, knowing smile, and he raised a gloved hand to wave at me. I didn't wave back. That was just the beginning. At first, I tried to rationalize it. Maybe it was some kind of joke, a strange midlife crisis, or even a peculiar hobby. But the way he stared at me whenever I stepped outside, the deliberate pauses, his head tilting ever so slightly, it felt like I was the punchline to a joke only he understood. The whispers started shortly after. Not from the neighbors, but from the walls. At night, as I lay in bed, I could hear the faintest sound of giggles, a girlish titter that seemed to flit through the vents like smoke. I told myself it was just the house settling. Houses make noises, I reminded myself. Nothing to worry about. Then came the tapping. I woke up one night to the sound of gentle, rhythmic tapping against my bedroom window. My heart pounded as I peeled back the curtain, expecting to see a tree branch swaying in the wind. Instead, I saw him. Mr. Winchell stood there on the lawn, illuminated by the pale light of the moon. He wasn't wearing his usual skirt and blazer this time. Tonight, he'd gone all out, pigtails tied with pink ribbons and a frilly blouse, the kind you'd see in an anime. He raised his hand again, but this time he didn't wave. He pointed, straight at me. I stumbled back from the window, heart racing. By the time I gathered the courage to look again, he was gone. The next day, I convinced myself to confront him. I marched over to his yard, where he was trimming his rose bushes, whistling a cheerful tune. He looked up, his face brightening like we were old friends. "Good morning," he chirped, his voice unusually high-pitched. "Mr. Winchell," I began, trying to keep my voice steady. "Do you think you could stop coming to my window at night?" His smile faltered for the briefest second. Then it returned, wider than before. "Oh dear me, you must be mistaken. I wouldn't dream of disturbing you." He paused, his gaze sliding up to my house. "But it's nice to know you're thinking about me." I didn't sleep that night. The giggles in the walls grew louder, almost gleeful, as if they knew something I didn't. It wasn't until I found the Polaroid tucked under my doormat that I truly lost it. The picture was grainy but unmistakable. It was me, sitting in my living room, curtains drawn. The angle was impossible unless it had been taken from inside my house. I stormed over to his house, ready to call the police, but his yard was eerily quiet. No sign of Mr. Winchell. His door was ajar, though, creaking in the breeze. Against my better judgment, I stepped inside. The air was thick with a sickly sweet perfume, and the walls were lined with shelves of porcelain dolls, each dressed in school uniforms. My stomach churned as I noticed the dolls' eyes. They weren't glass. They were photos. Tiny cut-out pictures of eyes, all staring at me. Then I saw the wig. Pigtails tied with pink ribbons, sitting neatly atop a mannequin's head. Below it was a navy blazer and pleated skirt, draped as if waiting for someone to wear them. "You shouldn't have come in," a voice whispered behind me. I turned, and there he was, grinning ear to ear, his eyes alight with something far beyond madness.